everyday things. What's wrong with you?
Y'all got it. What is up, y'all?
Juice.
All right, how close are we to being done? Almost? Keep working. We're going to go ahead and begin our little review. Turn off the... Well, I don't even know what kind of music that was. Devil music? All right. If you're still working, I'll call on you last, okay? That means you'll have one of the later ones to do. All right, let's start with Corey. Corey, will you read us the first one?
An oral history interview generally consists of a well-prepared interviewer questioning an interviewee and recording their exchange in audio or video format.
Excellent. All right, well-prepared interviewer, audio or video. We're going to do both, I guess, because we got a video camera, right? I don't know how to do video without audio. All right, next one, Jerry.
Oral history does not include random tapings such as President Richard Nixon recording of his white conversations, nor does it refer to record speeches, rap taping, personal diaries, or tape, or other sound recordings that lack the dialogue between interviewer and interviewee.
Okay, so what is oral history then? What is the definition of it? What does it have to have?
Somebody talking.
Not just somebody talking. What we're doing now is me talking.
Interviewing.
That's not oral history. Oral history has to have the interviewer and the interviewee, right? Make sure you stress the word, the blank word, okay? So like for that one, I would have said, they like the dialogue between interviewer and interviewee, so that I know which word you're talking that you found. All right, so Ivory, number 3.
I can't say this name.
Thucydides.
What?
Thucydides.
Thucydides complained that different eyewitnesses give different accounts of the same event, speaking out of partiality for one for one side or the other, or else for imperfect memory.
All right, so Thucydides said that you can't get good eyewitness information. Why is that?
Because everybody sees it differently.
Everybody sees it differently. Either they just remember it differently or they think it's different. Why?
Everybody's different.
Because you said that's anything.
It says imperfect memory, but it also says what? What does partiality mean?
It's a piece of it.
And, you know, they have an agenda, right? They're partial to one side of the story or the other, so they remember things a certain way. You guys ever heard of that term, spin? No, you guys ever watch any political shows or anything?
No.
Spin is how you spin an issue toward your side, right?
Oh, I know what that is.
You know what I mean? You guys know what I'm talking about? Anyway, all right. Number 4, Claire.
In 1773, Samuel Johnson argued against the proposition that an impartial history could not be written in the lifetime of those who had experienced the events.
Okay, so he was arguing against the idea that what? What was the idea that was prevalent in the early 1700s or around that time in regard to history? What were people thinking? What did Thucydides say? And I mean, he's not from the 1700s, he's from BC, but what did he say about an impartial history? How can you, getting it from people, is that possible?
No.
No, he said it wasn't. Samuel Johnson said, no, it is. It is possible. All right, you can get a good history, but it's only one piece of the puzzle. He never really said that, I don't think, but that's what I'm saying. All right, number 5, Donovan.
In regard to his histories of the French kings, Voltaire wrote that he had questioned old couriers, servants, great lords, and others, and recorded only those facts about which they agreed.
All right, so he recorded only those facts which agree, right? And this is like one of the things that I guess started oral history. All right, I can't follow that. Anyway, all right, good. Number 6, Cochran.
Seniors read much of the South Forum, as well as written sources until the late 19th century, when the Germans sourced onto the history from way of documented research. to the exclusion of other less objective sources.
All right, so the German school of thought came in the late 1800s, and they said what? What did they say about oral sources? Like sources of spoken
It
word?
was subjective. Too subjective.
Yeah, they were too subjective, right? Exactly, Corey. What does that mean?
They thought one person thought it was the same.
Right, they were too, I guess, one-sided. You know, objectivity is what?
The whole thing?
Right, the whole thing. Being objective is giving equal consideration to both sides of an argument. So subjectivity means what?
Fragments.
Subjectivity means what?
Oh, that's,
You see it through a certain frame of reference. Is it impossible to be, is it possible to be completely objective?
no.
No, right? There's something called, have you guys ever heard of implicit bias? I was learning about this the other day in one of my classes. The professor makes you take this test online, and it gives you like certain racial pictures of different races and things, and tests you for your implicit bias, just to see if you are naturally biased against people different than you. And most people score as being biased. And it's not because they're racist per se, but because everybody possesses a certain amount of ethnocentrism to some degree or another. All right, the scientists have found. All right, moving on. Who is that? Who's next? Lala?
Which number?
Number 7.
In the late 19th century, Leopold
Von Rank.
von Ranke and his followers trained historians to scrutinize documents in their search for truth and dismiss oral sources as folklore and myth. They deem oral evidence as subjective, shoddy memory told from a biased point of view.
All right, so what did Leopold von Ranke and them say? This is after the German school of thought. They said oral sources were what? Cochran? What did it say about oral sources? Jared?
It said that oral sources, y'all know.
This is the late 1800s now. What are the people thinking about oral sources?
It's bad.
They're not good, right? All right, so
Moving
moving along
Too subjective.
through
Are
time.
you starting Hernandez?
Shoddy memories.
Are you starting Hernandez?
So many people have asked for Sergeant Hernandez. We need to figure out who's going to get the best story out of him.
I can't.
Yeah, get she was here.
All right, hold on, time out. We'll talk about that later. I need to think about that. Let's move along. Number 8, Christian.
LT.
Oh, LT, what's his last name?
Ironically,
Hudson Fay.
Is he not here anymore?
So I can still find him.
We might still have
Major General Turner don't work here. So,
y'all been
All you gotta do is ask
Lieutenant
Hilton.
all I
Judge.
do is just call Hilton out.
Get Lieutenant Judge. Lieutenant Judge.
All right, who is it? Christian, go ahead. Yours.
Ironically, historians
Listen.
turned away from oral sources just as other professions and disciplines were embracing the interview. Bracket, close bracket.
You don't have to read all that.
30 minutes.
Guys, be quiet and respect Christian while he's reading.
Ironically, historians turned away from oral sources just as other professions and disciplines were embracing the interview. Open bracket, close bracket. In 1868, President Andrew Johnson, who was being impeached by Congress, said to a newspaper interviewer, "I want to give those fellows hell, and I think I can do it better through your paper than through a message because the people read the papers more than they do messages."
Okay, good, Christian. All right, so they turned away from oral history, historians did, but who embraced it?
The president.
Like everybody else, it started to be like something that was legit, especially journalists. All right, so he went to the newspaper because he thought he could get the story out better, right? Number 9 is Pedro.
Number 9.
Pedro, number 9.
When the United States and the World War II, President Franklin D. Roosevelt ordered all military branches and civilian agencies of government to prepare records of their wartime experiences.
Okay, so even the Army started using oral documentary right? Just to make sure people's stories didn't get lost. Number 10, Vlad.
Although the term had been used earlier, not until the 1940s, did the term oral history attach itself to interviewing? Joseph Scott, otherwise known as Professor Siegel, wanted to put down the informal history of the church sleep.
All right, so if you look at number 10, everyone, what was this guy, Joe Gould? Joe Gould, that was the name of the... Hey, what are y'all doing over there? Why are you touching her?
Yeah.
Don't be... Well, let's keep our body to ourselves. Hey, remember, I heard it on the announcement this morning. No lovey-dovey. All right, I don't want to get into it. Yeah, how did you get over there? All right, so
you wear that man.
hey, somebody look on here. Matter of fact, Jared, because you're so involved with those jujubes or whatever, look on here and tell me who was it that Joe Gould was trying to interview? Who was it that Joe Gould wanted to present the stories of?
Joseph Gould was trying to, Professor Siegel or something?
Yeah, Professor Siegel, what was he, whose story did he want to share?
He wanted to share, put down the informal history of short sleeve multitude.
So what does that mean, the shirt sleeve multitude? The stories of the short sleeve multitude, what does that mean? Who wears short sleeves? Working people, right? Oh, okay. These are not important people. We want to get the stories of the common people. All right, moving on. Number 11, Brianna. You're number 11.
9/11. Journalist turned historian Adam Miller created the first oral history.
That's what you get.
Well, you don't know?
Archives at Columbia University, 1940.
Good. He was the first one to start doing this, really, under the present name. Number 12, Daryl.
Yes.
Guys, listen to Daryl.
The first president. I got started.
Yeah, you were right. Presidential.
No, I was actually that. Library oral history program in 1960.
Excellent. So even the president started doing it in the 60s. This is when it really became popular in the 20th century, right? All right. Who is that back there? Oh, Chanel.
Chanel.
In 1972, the Imperial War Museum in London established a Department of Sound Records to collect and preserve oral testimony of those servicemen and women for lack of inclination, that's how you say that? All right. Opportunity or literary skill would lead no other record purpose.
Guys, this is important. This is the whole reason why we're doing this oral history project. In 1972, the Imperial War Museum in London established a Department of Sound Record to record and preserve oral testimony of those servicemen and women who, for lack of inclination, opportunity,
or
literary skill, would leave no other record for history. What are we doing with our oral history project?
Preserving history.
We are preserving something that would otherwise be lost. Not because the people don't have the skills to preserve it, but just because maybe they never will get around to it otherwise.
A story.
All right, so we're doing something that is really big, not just for this class, but for the world. You know what I mean? In general, I think. So I think it's good, and it's something that we all can get excited about.
Can I ask Hernandez?
No, we're talking about that later. I got already some names up here. We're going to have to figure this out. I'm going to have to hammer this out.
No.
Number 14, Stan.
Newly emerging nations.
Guys, let's quiet down. We can talk about all this in a second. We can talk about all this in a second. Right now, Stan's going to read, and then Maria's going to read.
Newly emerging nations in Asia and Africa found that the written documents reflected the views of former colonial masters and used oral history to revive buried national identity.
Good. Who writes history?
Journalists.
I mean, traditionally, who has written the history books?
Historian.
Well, lately, it's been historians, but for the most part, where are the historians from? What countries are they from?
Europe and stuff.
Spain.
Colonial oppressors, people who win the battles write history, right?
Oh, yeah.
What happens to the people who get subjugated? Their stories get lost, right? That's why it's important to try to preserve things like Bela Geechee heritage and stuff like that in oral history projects and stories of people who are oppressed by things, all right? Number 15, Maria.
Interviewers of many nations have found interviewing a critical tool when presenting issues of repression and reconciliation.
Repression is obvious, right? What is reconciliation? Think about
When you recognize
You come,
something.
you gotta remember it.
what is going on in what was going on in South Africa during the latter half of the 20th century. What happened in South Africa involving Nelson Mandela?
Oh, he went to jail.
He went to jail for a long time, then he came out and became president. You know, South Africa had minority rule for a long time. It was ruled by whites, even though the population was majority black. And so the idea was, this is not fair representation. This is not right. So there was this movement and this pushback by people who supported Nelson Mandela when he got out of jail to run for president. He did, and he practiced something called reconciliation. Instead of saying, we're in charge now and we want to take over from the whites and change everything they've done, he said, we need to respect the whites and incorporate parts of their culture into our own culture. And that's what they did. And it was kind of a beautiful thing what he did in South Africa, this process of reconciliation. You can see it, if you ever watch that movie Invictus, the way he brought in the name of the team, what was it? You guys ever seen that movie? The rugby team, the name was like the Springboks or something. And the new government, some of the black leaders in the new government said, no, Mr. President, Madiba was what they called it. Madiba, we want to change the name. And he said, no, we're going to leave the name. He's like, that's something for the whites too, and we need to work together on this. So that's reconciliation. It can help get other stories out, but it can help like racial tensions to ease and people be together more. All right, so now let's talk. From here on out, we're going to read one of these things every class period and do a little activity with it. I don't know if we'll do something.
I like these.
I like these too, man. I think they're kind of fun.
Yep.
But anyway, moving on, let's talk about the list. Let's see how many you got. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. We need 4 more people.
I got. Somebody can do Chef Crompton, but I'm not.
Chef Crompton.
Sorry, named it.
Somebody can do Miss Williams.
Clearly I'm getting Colonel Williams.
Somebody can do Miss Williams. Type it in the military.
She go. Sorry, why did they call me like?
That's 12.
Bro, you just triple me yesterday, bro.
Captain Brown.
Who?
Yes.
Captain Brown.
I just said.
Man, I was in the military.
Can I trade
All right, who else?
And then they cut about
to do Colonel Williams.
You want to
He
do
not.
Williams?
I already got him. Wait.
I put Brianna with him.
I feel like I can get best friend to get different.
Why would you be with
Mr. B was in the military.
You were the regimental commander.
No.
Christian wanted to do Mr. Townsend.
Man, let me do
Can I do Chef?
I do LT.
All right,
Jared won LT.
we'll make it 10 and 10. Hey, Jared, you need to get in touch with him. He doesn't work here anymore or what?
Oh, never mind, I ain't got time. You know how it is. I'm gonna just do something.
Well, we're going to have to put you with somebody. We're going to have to interview somebody.
No, you are out.
Conspire you in the
Yo,
military.
sorry, boy.
Don't do that.
You don't talk about
All of that, Mr. Pryor. I don't think Mr. Pryor was in the schools, man.
Mr. Williams was in the military. He might have to be on the list.
So he in the military now.
He's out now.
He out.
Yeah, you already put his 8 years.
That ain't long enough to get no good interview out of him.
Okay, he clearly was in the army.
Here's what I would do with Mr. Williams. Here's what I would do with Mr. Williams. I would say, how have you taken some of the skills you learned in the military and translated it to the teaching field, you know, where he has more teaching.
That's one question.
Please, you know.
That's 30 minutes asking somebody in the National Guard.
You know, I don't know. That's the thing. You have to. It's on the onus of
Yeah, see the video?
responsibility for getting people to answer your questions. Like, you guys know